Welcome, everybody. How are you today? Hope you're all doing well. Let's get a little serpentine, shall we? Feel it. Feel that motion. Come on. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, the waves of the sea, the waves of the ocean, the ebb and flow. This is the track called Jormungandr by Dunheim. Shout out to Dunheim for this awesome track, this intro. Yes, this intro to another Random Heathen Ramblings podcast brought to you 100% and solely, no paid sponsors. Brought to you 100% by your boy over here, Jesse, Midgard Musings. Thank you for joining today. Thank you for becoming a supporter of the podcast wherever you are listening and watching in the world. If you're watching right now, then it's because it's one of two things. You've either joined the premiere on YouTube or you're a YouTube channel member. Noticed a somewhat disheartening trend of people becoming part of the premieres, but that may be because it just hits at the wrong time of the day. I'm not sweating it too much. The main thing is that you are here listening, watching, viewing, participating, supporting in any which way you can. And I just got to be real. It's greatly appreciated. It's always greatly appreciated because whether you listen, whether you join the premiere, whether you listen or watch later on, as long as you're a part of it, as long as you get some sort of enjoyment out of it. If you do enjoy it, upvoting, liking, commenting, sharing, all of that fun stuff, just help the algorithm figure out that this is what needs to be kicked out there. Okay. As always, you can call into the Midgard Musings hotline. That number is 615-671-9832. Always open. You're always just going to hit a voicemail, but leave me a recording, leave me a voicemail, leave me a message. Let me know what you want to hear about. Talk to me a bit about things and talk to us. All right. Let's get your voice heard on the Midgard Musings platform, the Midgard Musings airwaves, as it were. We're now distributed on 8 or 9 different platforms, YouTube, of course, being one of them. But you can find me here on Anchor, Spotify. Those are the 2 big ones because they are partners. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Breaker, Stitcher, Radio Public. I don't know, just wherever you're listening, wherever you're participating from. If you can and you want to upvote the podcast, please do so. Don't forget to check the show notes in each and every episode because there's some cool things that quite often get included in the show notes. If you're watching, it's going to be down in the description of this podcast. So make sure to check it out. One of the biggest ways that you can support the podcast is if you ever want to get some Midgard Musings merchandise. There's a spring store. Again, that's going to be linked in the Linktree link. Check out the merchandise that Midgard Musings has to offer for you and your loved ones today. Okay. Yesterday's already gone. Tomorrow isn't yet here, but today you can take action. All right. You can do it, baby. You can get out here and you can put on some slick new Midgard Musings threads, get you an order put in, get your stuff in hand before the Yule season comes around here in just a few months. Was an interesting it was an interesting weekend that I had that I'm going to be talking with all of you here on the podcast about today. But I'm going to be having a guest on here to talk a bit about it as well. We're going to be having a guest who's been on the channel, been on the YouTube channel before, has not yet been on a podcast. So this is his second time back with me. I've known this gentleman for quite some time, and he's a good fella. He's been a part of Ritual. He's been a part of my tribe's events, so small as they have been, and I've been a part of his tribe's events. So we're going to be welcoming in. We're in the South, right? So we can drop the G, right? So if you want, if it's anything to do with a thing, right, and the verb is to do the thing, right? We're welcoming. Well, we'll welcome in because we're in the South. We're recording this from the Middle Tennessee area of the United States. So for all the international listeners, and when I say we're going to drop the G, it's a bit of a loose slang term. Speaking of international listeners, I think the recent analytic report that I got was that out of all of the listeners in the world, the majority of people are listening from the United States, around 86%, but we've got a 3 or 4% listener base in the United Kingdom, and about another 3 or 4% over there in Canada. So for all of my UK listeners and Canadian folk listening and watching, et cetera, big shout out to you guys for being in the top 3 analytics so far as my platform has been able to give me a reading on. There's other listeners around, some other Finland, Switzerland, et cetera. But all of you out here listening, wherever you are, checking in from, call in. I think it's a Google Voice number. So 615-671-9832. Yes, that is a domestic U.S. number. So you hit your number 1 for the United States. But if you're doing it over Google Voice, does it really count against your data or your international roaming? I don't know. But if you go to the Anchor app and you find Midgard Musings on anchor.fm/Midgard Musings and you want to drop me a voice message, you can do that. You can always email me, midgardmusingstn@gmail.com. All of that stuff's going to be in the show notes. It's going to be in the description. So yeah, let's start with the intro to today's podcast, and let's welcome in Greg Strong. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Greg Strong, who I mentioned earlier, not by name, but just sort of alluded to as a return guest. Greg Strong is the current chieftain for the Raven Moon Hearth here in Nashville, Tennessee. So let's go ahead and start our intro to today's episode and welcome in Greg Strong. Here we go. All right, folks, welcome Greg Strong to the podcast. Greg is not going to be on camera today because just you don't always have to have your face seen to make an impression out here in the world. Am I right, Greg?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So for all the listeners out here, you're going to get the same experience as you have ever gotten with any guests that are featured here on the podcast. But for those joining the YouTube premiere and that watch this, for all the YouTube channel members, you will not be so graciously graced with Greg's likeness or image. But I don't think that's going to take away from your overall Greg experience. At least that's what I'm gonna call it, the Greg experience, not the old Greg, right? Like, you remember I'm old Greg.
Yep.
Ever drank Bailey's from a shoe? Yeah, you know, it's not going to be an old Greg experience. It's going to be the Greg experience. So, welcome to the show, Greg. Hail and welcome to you, my good friend.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you being here. So, for everybody that's again listening and stuff, Greg has been. I mentioned earlier in the intro that Greg is a return guest to Midgard Musings, because Greg actually had appeared on a very early episode of a Midgard Musings broadcast some years ago. I'll probably link it in the show notes and in the description for everybody that wants to kind of refer back to it. But since then, there's been a lot of changes and developments in the tribal structure of where Greg comes from. So, Greg, I'm just going to kind of start things off and let you fill in any gaps. But Greg is a part of a local Middle Tennessee or Nashville area-based heathen tribe or kindred, and I'll let you kind of expand on what you want to call yourselves, but Raven Moon Hearth. So
Yep.
when Greg was on the channel some couple years ago, maybe now, year and a half, 2 years ago, you carried the title of the Skald for your group. And so I'm going to stop myself right now and allow you to kind of tell everybody who you are, what Raven Moon Hearth is, and what your position or your service, the capacity at which you engage with Raven Moon Hearth. So take it away, Greg.
I just want to make a quick correction there. I've not been the Skald in our group. I really like that position, but it's not been mine. At the moment, I am the chieftain of the group, which more or less makes me the high priest, leader, however you want to say it.
Kind of the boss man, as it were, in a way.
Yeah. High priest probably isn't the right word, because we have a Gothi and we have a Volva. So we have both of those taken care of. But yeah, I'm the chieftain, and that's kind of where I'm at the moment. It is a great group, and like you said, it's primarily based out of the Middle Tennessee area. Although we have members in Kentucky and Alabama. We actually had a member in Arkansas, but he recently moved to Tennessee, thankfully, because I believe it was an 8-hour round trip.
Quite a trek. Yeah. I mean, you're talking, Nashville is like considered, like, say, Middle Tennessee, and then Arkansas, even if you're like West Memphis, Arkansas, that's a good like 4 to 5 hour trek. So depending on where you're at in Arkansas, like you're talking, who knows, like you say, up to 8 hours. So I do apologize though for the mislabeling. I'm almost certain that when you were on the channel last, that we were talking about the role of the Skald. Maybe I was misinformed, or maybe I just had the name wrong. There was a different title over the years of your involvement with the Hearth, Raven Moon Hearth, and like I said, I thought it was the Skald. So I'll give you the opportunity to correct me. And where did you start from in the Hearth, and what led you up into the position that you're in right now, and the details of which can be as little or as much as you care to choose, care to share, I guess I could say.
Yeah. Well, like when I was first brought into the group, just as a standard member, I was given a chance to become one of the Elder Council, which is a smaller group within the larger group that takes care of like planning, and we're the people who do a little bit more. It's our job too. And I was given the position of scribe, which basically meant I was the person who took all the notes and stuff.
Okay.
And it was quite a decent job. I enjoyed it. Got a chance to sit in and listen to all the really interesting stuff, and all the conversations that went on kind of behind the scenes about the festivals that we do, and just all that sort of fun stuff. And
Okay.
that was kind of my intro into like the Elder Council side of things, which is like we have you see 5 or 6 positions. We have the chieftain, we have the Thule, and for those of you who are unfamiliar, Thule is basically the person whose job it is to make sure that any oaths that are given are followed through, and they're also kind of the person who is supposed to be there when Frith gets broken or whatnot. So they're the ones who
They're kind of like I don't want to say like this may sound a bit harsh, but like an enforcer of the rules or a sergeant at arms, or
yeah.
would that be kind of like an accurate like modern day equivalent if you look at like structure of club type or tribe type, because the Thule role, I think we see in such sagas as the Beowulf saga. That's a very Saxon structure of things. I guess it would be the most like accurate depiction of that representation, because like in the Beowulf saga, right, Beowulf's over here talking about all this kind of, he's boasting about all these things he's going to do, and then I think it's Unferth, right? He's the Thule. He's like, well, hold on a second there, big guy. If you do, he kind of like sets the bar, like, okay, you're going to say you're going to do this. Well, you're either going to do it, and if you don't, here's the
right.
Here's kind of like the shield, is the term that's called, and it sounds like the shield that you like, defend things with, but it's a Saxon Old English word, I think, that means like the not the, I don't know why I said dowry almost, but like the oh gosh, the word I'm thinking of, but it's like the fee, the penalty almost,
yes,
that you pay for not accomplishing what you say you're going to do. So you have okay, so you're going to say you're going to do something, and then it's the Thule's job to, all right, well, if you don't do it, you're going to pay the recompense, you're going to pay the penalty for not doing it, right?
Yep. And it goes a little bit deeper than that too, because like you're not just paying because you didn't follow through, but the payment that is required of you is to gain your honor back. And like your honor is something that you're supposed to be like really careful with, because if people can't trust your word, then what do they have? And the Thule is the person who enforces that, and make sure that people in the tribe are honorable. And it's important to have that position. I think, at least.
I think it's very valuable, Greg, to have a tribe structured in a way that has that, because what you talk about with the honor that you uphold, it's not just, and I'm just going to like use a hypothetical, right? Like, so let's say it's me and you and the rest of the Hearth, and I say I'm going to do something, and the Thule's job is to make sure that I do it. It's not just the fact that I'm upholding my own word. It's because that what I'm saying that I'm going to do has an impact on the rest of the tribe.
Exactly.
And so there's a preservation, or there's an interest, at least, to preserve the tribe's luck and the tribe's honor and all this other kind of thing. And there's inherent meaning behind honor to include the rest of the collective, the tribe, the kindred, the Hearth, whatever you choose to name your group of nearest and dearest, right?
Right. Yeah, and I mean, like you want people to be able to look at you and see you as I can't think of a good word at the moment, but you don't want them to see you as like a lesser person. And when you're able to keep your word, and if you can't, like you find ways to make sure that it's what's the word I'm looking for here? I don't want to say paid back, but like that
there has to be a balance kept. Like, you have to keep the balance.
Right. Yeah.
because like if anybody just comes in here and just starts spouting off all kinds of wacky stuff all willy-nilly, right?
Yeah.
Well, that there's an impact that you're going to have on not just you but everybody else around you, because there's that shared luck of the tribe that, and I don't know what you think about this, Greg, but like I feel like ultimately that falls on the role of the chieftain, because the luck of the tribe is like you as the chieftain hold that by the balls. if I can be so visceral, if I can be so real, right? Like you kind of like, hey, if crap hits the fan, man, like everything rolls uphill, downhill, whatever you talk about, like leadership and whatnot, in almost any structure of things, whether it's, you know, a heathen tribe or business or whatever, like, you know, the crap rolls downhill, but it starts somewhere. So if people just become all complacent or willy-nilly about, well, I think I'm this and I think I'm that and I'm great because of this or because of that, but there's no order set for the checks and balances process of it,
Right.
then you run the risk of deteriorating or perhaps losing the integrity and the luck of the tribe overall. So
yeah, and if you look back, you know, into our arch heathens and stuff, if a leader was bad enough, they would kill him and put somebody else in the place. And you know, part of the reason for that is because like it affects everybody. So if the person who is holding the luck for the tribe is like not doing a good job, and you know everyone's suffering, what are you supposed to do? You know, you put somebody else in that position. And I really hope if it ever comes to that you know I can step down and somebody else will, you know, take the position and do a better job. Because if I can't do it, then you know it really needs to be somebody else. So,
yeah,
but,
and I like what I like about or at least what I've come to learn that I like about the because I've talked about, not just on podcasts but on my videos before, like I'm a big advocate for heathenry existing at the tribal level, and I feel that heathenry, Germanic heathenry, exists and functions best at the tribal level because of how the society functioned in ancient times. Like that's where things sat. Like last week's podcast, I had guests on here and friends that we were talking about tundra law and things that don't even tie into directly, like specifically into heathenry, but have inherent values of, it's like, hey, when you get past the societal structure of things and you look at like primal, the way the law of the jungle is, or the way tundra law is, it's like, you know, if something is failing, if there's a kink in the chain, then the rest of the tribe, the rest of the group comes in to try to help fix it. Otherwise, everything falls apart.
right.
So there's this very, like, I feel inherent familial bond that can be developed through tribalism, through understanding how tribal structure works. And we see this in many different cultures, not just in, you know, Germanic heathenry, but it seems to be a pretty common theme across many different cultures. And like you say, you know, if a leader is no longer fitting the role, it's not like a dictatorship where, you know, you as the chieftain are the end all be all. It's there's a what's that term I'm looking for? Consensus that's taken.
Right.
There's a bit of diplomacy executed and exercised, wherein it's like, you know what, I'm not the chieftain because of how much money I make, or because of how good I look, or because of how tall I am, or because of how many, you know, people I've conquered, or this or that. It's because the people, the tribe, as it were, have determined my worth to be that this is where my service is best fit. You know what I mean? Like, right. It's almost like, you know, I say voting, right? But I'm not the chieftain, you're not the chieftain, he's not the this, he's not the that, because of anything other than that the people have determined and have voiced their willingness to be led by so and so. Is
Right.
that is that kind of like an accurate
Yeah,
rendition breakdown of it? Would you say?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, like any of the positions in a group should be held by the people who can best do the job, and the people who not, I don't know what word I'm looking for. They're I'm sorry, my brain is just not functioning
I mean,
at
they've
100%.
proven their worth to fill that
Yes,
role. They've done the
right,
thing. They've done the deeds, right? So like we were talking in last week's podcast, where it's like, well, just because, um, I'm a great person, I may not be the best hunter in the group.
right,
So I'm not going to be, the lead hunter guy in the group because I suck at it, but I may be the best, farmer or the best land cultivator or whatever. So that's going to be my area of expertise. It's like your deeds, your actions, your works are going to exemplify what is where your worth is, and then the people will see that and they will be like, yeah, your worth is placed upon you by the people. I don't think worth
right,
is anything that you can just intrinsically slap on somebody because of a label. Like your worth has to be proven through
right.
deeds and through actions.
And it's a really important thing. Like one of the one of the things that I really kind of like is when you bring people into your group. Um, it sounds kind of wrong, especially in today, but like they don't have worth. And it's not that they're worthless individuals or anything like that, but like when they first come into the group, they have to prove themselves, and that's
Mm-hmm.
the where you gain the worth from.
Yeah.
And part of that is, going back to the whole Thule thing. Like if you say you're going to do something, you follow through with it. And once you've done that a few times, like we know that if I ask, hey, can you take care of this, like I know that you're going to do it because that's you've proven it.
Yeah.
And like that's in elder council positions, those are the people that you want. um
For
the
sure.
people who are, yeah. There's a what is it called? I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head, but there's this psychological thing. There's this thing in psychology where they talk about the 80-20 rule. And in any given situation, there's like 20% of the people are doing 80% of the work. And like those are the people that you want in like any sort of leadership position, because
Mm.
they're the ones who are going to do the work,
Mm.
Yeah.
How have you because so we're going to get into some other things, but like you've had your pagan background. So like for everybody listening and watching, like Greg and we go back several years. We're not like longtime friends by the stretch of any sort of like calendar counting of things. I think we've probably known each other at least on the surface for like within the last maybe 3 to 5 years tops.
Yep. Yeah.
Um, but in terms of getting to know each other, and I mentioned in the intro, like I have been a part of some Raven Moon Hearth invite only and public events, and you, sir, have been a part of our tribes, the Huridi folk, which is still very small. You've been a part of our Yule events now for going on 2 years, 3 years almost coming up.
Yep.
And I guess I'm just wondering, like from your perspective, you having been a part of a pagan community that has been structured, whether you were a part of its inception or not, you've been a part of it, and you're now in a leadership role. Like, what are some really key things that you think need to be in place for the integrity of a group, a collective? Because let's face it, there's a lot of people that listen and watch this stuff that aren't necessarily Germanic heathens, and maybe there are some neo-pagans that still have a sense of a societal structure, whether it be pagan covens or any other sort of thing. Like, what do you think are some really important things that need to be present before you can successfully establish any sort of collective with people of a variety of worldviews on things, or personal views on things, cultic views on things. Like, what's your take on that, and where do you see what do you think is like inherently valuable that needs to be in place for it to be successful?
Well, I think you need like a group of people who are dedicated to doing the work, for starters. So like that would be, your council or whatever you want to call it, your leadership. And I think there should be like one person who in that group is the leader, of like the person who is above everybody else. And it sounds kind of counterintuitive, but
Especially now in today's vernacular, you know what I mean? Because you look at cults. We talked a little bit about this. We didn't really get into it too deep last week's podcast, but like, and I'm sorry to cut you off. I just want to like share an idea before you go into it too further. It was like this whole cult mentality. It's like cults were a thing, cultic practices, and the modern day understanding of what a cult is. Like there's a lot of differences between what it was and what it has become. But so this like overarching leader that's kind of over everything. I don't think, and maybe you want to dive into it a little bit more, but I just want to like preface what you're going to say with hopefully an idea from my mind is like, this isn't like a dictatorship. None of the, at least none of the pagan communities that I've been involved in and seen have ever taken this as like the end all be all dictatorship type of role. Right.
Right. And that's exactly it. Like I was saying, you need that group of people who are doing the work, because you can't do everything by yourself, and you want like a group of people around you who are willing to like talk with you and tell you like and come up with ideas, because there's no way you're going to be able to do all of that on your own. And that's like Raven Moon Hearth has an amazing group of people who are doing that right now. But you also need that one person, because when you have 5 or 6 people and you're voting on sometimes literally everything, sometimes you have to have that one person who can just say, okay, this is the path that we're going to take now, and like everyone like follows it. I've luckily never had to do that with my group. There have been a couple of times where we've come close, but we always talk it out. So but you need that one person sometimes who can say, okay, like enough of the talk, like now we're going to start doing it, and this is the path that we're taking. Because when you have a whole bunch of people sitting around having these conversations, a lot of times that's all you're doing is having long conversations about something instead of actually doing it.
Right.
And it gets bogged down in minutia when you really just gotta like open that dam and let stuff flow. So.
Wow. No, I think that's incredibly valuable information for people listening and wanting to know, because I think I don't know what you think, Greg, but I've seen, especially very recently, but within the last year or two, and I say within the last year or two because of the COVID pandemic and the way people have become so isolated, right? If they weren't looking for something to be a part of before the pandemic, they are absolutely, people are yearning for a community, a sense of community since then, and now almost more than ever, I think. I've gotten that sense. It's like so much of people, like when they're looking for something, it's like, I am a part of something or aren't I? I'm not, but I'm looking for something. People want to be a part of a group. And I feel like us as human beings, like that's our, like, we're like pack animals. We're pack creatures. We yearn for a community. We yearn for some sort of camaraderie, and we look to be a part of something. There are the exceptions, right? There are the solitary folks that just seem to function better, kind of being the lone wolf or doing their own thing. Nothing against that by any means. But when it comes to people looking for something, the structure that exists or that has to exist in order to make it functional needs to be, I think, understood and respected. So when you say, yeah, I want to be a part of something, I feel like there's a sense of obligation or a level of obligation on the individual to learn and understand what that group is, how that group is structured before they can determine do they want to be a part of it. And one of the things that I wanted to like kind of segue into is how Raven Moon Hearth offers that opportunity for people that are curious. So you guys have a number of public events that are not closed off to your tribe or your kindred, whatever you want to call it, that are open to the public. So can you talk a bit about what those events are and what, if any, events you have coming up that people that are interested can learn a bit about Raven Moon Hearth and what your tribe is about?
Yeah. Um, we traditionally do two large events, and then up until COVID, we were having moots like every month or two, where it was just a chance for people to come and hang out, and like we would do chili cook-offs and we'd go bowling and stuff like that. Just a chance for people to come hang out and meet people of a
Yeah.
like mind. But the two big events that we do is we have one that's coming right up called Shadowmoot, which is the weekend of October 15th, and it's in Springfield, Tennessee. And that one, it's a weekend where we have classes and like games and all kinds of fun stuff. And we do a ritual to Loki's daughter, Hela. And we also have another one that we do usually around midsummer. And that one, it changes. We've done Sunablot in the past, which was just dedicated to the goddess Suna, kind of a midsummer thing. And this last year we did Feast of the Fallen because it was really close to Veterans Day, and we thought, what a great way to like incorporate that. So
Yeah. Feast of the Fallen, Veterans Day. I myself was born on Veterans Day, so it's cool. I get my birthday off every year just because it's a United States recognized holiday. But yeah, so like I think and I know, and therefore I am, to quote somebody from somewhere. But I think therefore I am. Isn't that Shakespeare? Is it Macbeth? I think
um,
therefore I am. Was that the Help me out,
I
Greg. You're the academic. You're the one with the library of books or
yeah,
I
I
think
don't
therefore I am.
think it's Shakespeare. I want to say that's Socrates, but
Oh, okay. Well, we're going off into the Grecian philosophical side of things. I also knew a guy who was very flatulent. He said, "I fart, therefore I am." Whatever you do, therefore you are. We'll modernize it into the 21st century. But Shadowmoot.
yeah.
So I was actually a part of a Sunabloat event was a couple years ago. I guess it was 2019 at this point. I think the tribal structure has changed a lot since then. Don't want to go into too many details, but it was a very holistic event. I felt so welcomed. You know what I mean? Like, and for anybody that participated, that was there, that is listening now, that was there, was like, wow, what was that about? It was phenomenal. Just the games, the community involvement, the ritual. I think, and I'm going to go out here on a limb. I want to say that the Estra event, that was a invite only event that I
Mhm.
was very privileged to be a part of. That was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Just being a part of the not necessarily part of the Raven Moon Hearth tribe, but being invited. That was a huge honor to me. So I want to just formally say thank you again. Like that was a really special event. I don't think I've been a part of the Shadowmoot events, but you talk about dedicating Shadowmoot to Loki's daughter Hela. You mentioned
Yeah.
Hela. The naming, the nomenclature is
Yeah.
neither here nor there. What makes the timing of Shadowmoot? We're talking about. You said the weekend of the 15th of October. I personally have some significance tied to that, and I'm wondering if you want to talk a bit about why you have Shadowmoot around that time, if it recurs around the same time, and what the significance to Hel or Hela has to the. And this is a public event, right? This is like
Right.
anybody that sees it can come. It's not a closed off event. So, would you care to kind of elaborate a bit on the development of this event and what it means um, to the tribe, to the people that come?
Sure. Well, originally, there's a heathen holy day called, well, more of a kind of a couple of days, but it's called Winter
Yeah,
Night.
yeah, buddy.
And um, originally, when Raven Moon Hearth was real young, we are just about to celebrate our ninth birthday, for lack of a better word, in November. But originally, when we were young, um, the group of heathens who started it were either dating or married to a group of women who were involved with a coven. And what they decided was that they wanted to have an event where they could bring like both groups together to kind of hang out, because that doesn't really happen a lot. You don't get like a lot of heathens hanging out with pagans and whatnot. There's just
Like a mixed audience of Germanic heathens and other neo-pagan, non like eclectic pagan sort of audience. Is that
yeah, like you don't see a lot of mixture of those, and there's really, to my understanding, not a real reason why, except that they're, like they just don't mix in general. So the two groups came together and they started this, the Shadowmoot, because they thought that like all these people could come together and hang out and have a good time, and that's exactly what happened. I mean, I believe this is the I want to say it's the eighth or ninth. Um, it's got to be the eighth time that Shadowmoot has happened, and we open it to literally anybody. I mean, we've had Christians show up, we've had like Buddhists,
really?
Druids, yeah. So yeah,
How was that? I'm just curious. Like, were you ever at an event where like an obvious Christian individual showed up, and what was that like? Eh,
they were actually incredibly like cool. Like, I mean, they just wanted to come and see kind of what was going on, and what we were
wow.
up to. And like, you hear those horror stories where people are, you know just being real jerks and stuff. I luckily have never had that happen. And we always, like, if people show up and they're being kind of standoffish, or like, they're just not getting involved, I always try to involve them in some way. Like,
Mm,
obviously, if they're just there to, like they want to be there, but they don't feel comfortable getting involved,
like
then don't.
observers.
Yeah.
Mm,
But 9 times out of 10, if you go up and, talk to them and just, kind of be cool, like they're going
yeah.
to do the same. So, and then that's what we as a Hearth try to do. Like, our big thing is community. Like, we want people to like come and hang out and like just to share,
Mm,
like, that's how we get to the future. Like, as far as I can tell, like we want, um I don't know, like I want to be able to, like, have people around me who I can trust, and like, have a good time with, like, not creepy good times or anything like that, but
yeah.
like, when
I
you and
mean,
I
no
hang out.
shame if that's the thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, hey, in certain
Yeah.
small circles, if you want to get freaky with it, but
Right.
but I get what you're saying.
But
Um,
I love learning, and like, people have really interesting stories, even people who don't think they have like a fun background or something. Like there's always something they can teach you. And I really enjoy that. I like going and hanging out with people who are different than me, because there's always something I'm going to learn. Always.
dude,
Yeah.
100%. And that's part of the that's part of heathenry that I like to celebrate, is that we don't, I say we, as like an umbrella term. I don't. I'm going to say we as like heathens, but me personally, in the heathen circles that I've been around, it's like we don't discredit or discount knowledge or wisdom in any direction from whence it comes.
Yeah.
Right? Like wisdom is wisdom regardless of where it comes from. I think it's, and I'm probably going to butcher the Bun manga, but there's a saga, but
Yeah.
it starts with a B. You know what I'm talking about, Greg.
Yeah.
And like I say, you're a little bit more academic with your knowledge of things, but the Banda manga, Beta manga, Sangha,
I think.
something like
So,
that. Yeah, like it's noted there. Like wisdom is wisdom from whence wherever it comes. And I
right.
want to like celebrate one thing. Like you talked about, is the Hearth coming into its 9th year of existence? That, so far as you know, like this is 2021 is its 9th
Yeah.
year.
Um,
9 is a big deal, dude. Like 9 is a big thing in the German, like the the 9 realms. Just 9 is a sacred kind of deal. You had the 9-year sacrifice in Uppsala, old Uppsala, Sweden, and like
yeah.
that's a big deal. And now you've got Shadowmoot coming up. Another fun thing too is you were talking about having Christians participate or at least attend some of these public events. And I think at the time that this podcast is going to air, the Troth is having a live premiere on YouTube, which I'm going to think about linking. I'm just saying this right now as a reminder to link in the show notes and in the description of this premiere today, that they're having a pagan and a pastor talk on the same live stream event.
Oh, that's cool.
The Troth is even recognizing the value, perhaps, or the inclusion of having pagan and non-pagan leaders, because I think one of the speakers who's coming, like there's going to be a some sort of leader with the Troth, or a steward in the Wisconsin area, talking with a pastor of the Lutheran faith.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm there. I am all about it. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be watching. I'm going to be commenting. I'm going to be in the live chat. I'm like, I want to see this happen in real time. I don't want to miss anything. I want to miss any of those juicy bits, because this is like a conversation that's been needing to happen for how long? You know what I mean? Like, because that, like, if you think about the fact that, like, a pagan priest or a pagan religious leader and a Christian religious leader, two talking together on the same platform, like this is almost in some perceptions maybe unprecedented. And it's phenomenal. I think it's groundbreaking in the terms of the progression of paganism in at least the United States.
Right.
Because I can at least speak to that platform, but
just out of curiosity, the person being the Christian person, do you happen to know if that's Nadia Bowles-Weber, the Lutheran priestess or minister?
Nope. Yeah, no, it's not. It's actually, and I will tell you guys, I'll tell you who it is, because it's I guess public knowledge. It is going to be so the pagan speaker is going to be, wow, I'm going to get it. I'm going to show you, or at least I'm going to tell you. So it's Pastor Andy Bainhurt, Bainhurt,
Okay.
and the Reverend. He's got a Reverend title. Ethan Stark. So Ethan Stark is with the Troth.
Okay.
He's a steward with the Troth. But Pastor Andy Baron. I'm mispronouncing his name because it's gonna be annotated. And apologies to this gentleman that may hear or see about this later on. But no, Greg, it's not the woman that you made reference to. But I guess they're going to be having some sort of interfaith discussion between pagan and Christian clergy
Very cool.
of some sorts. Yeah, I'm very intrigued about it, to be honest with you. I've got a reminder set. I think it's happening. It's premiering live on September 30th, which is, for those watching the premiere today, it is September 30th at 7 p.m. Central Time. So that'll be 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, I think it is. I'm doing my math correctly. So yeah, check the show notes, check the description, because I don't know, man. Like, that's kind of where I want to be at that point on that date.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see kind of where things go with that.
Oh, the reason I was asking is because I tend to look to a lot of other religions for ideas that we can kind of borrow to make ours better. And like Nadia Bowles-Weber is a really fascinating person, and I don't know, she's pretty cool. Like I've learned a little bit from her, and one of the things that's kind of interesting is she was really rebellious when she was young, and she's got like a lot of tattoos, and she was, she did drinking and alcohol, drinking and drugs and all kinds of stuff. And then one of her friends is like, hey, I'm gonna go into seminary, and she's like, well, that sounds kind of fun, I'm gonna do that too. And she went into seminary and ended up getting her degree. And when she got out, like, they gave her a church, and like she started this church, and she specifically went after like all of the alternative people. So like, she went and she got homeless people, and she got like LGBTQ A plus people, and like, all of the outcasts sort of thing.
Yeah.
And that was her entire like congregation, was all of these people that just nobody else wanted.
Yeah, like the rejects of society, as it were, because of whatever reason, because of because I don't know, I don't understand. I think I hate you because of reasons, stupid stuff. Yeah.
Well, it was really kind of fascinating because like that was her congregation, and she did that for a few years, and then she started to notice like the normies were showing up, so like people, like it'd be a family, a husband and a wife and their two kids, and they come in, and like, the husband would be in a 3-piece suit, and the wife would be in a dress, and whatnot. And like these people started just like randomly coming to her church because like she had cool stuff to say, and she got real weirded out by it, and she ended up calling some friends who were also ministers, and she's like, I don't know what to do. Like, these people are ruining my whole like my whole congregation, like this is not who we are. And it was kind of neat because if I recall correctly, and I could be misremembering part of it, but her friend basically said, well, what would Jesus do? Like, Jesus went to like, he was hanging out with prostitutes and lepers and, all this other stuff, who were essentially the alternative people of his era. So, she had this thought like, okay, well, I'm going to try to integrate them. And it really kind of worked out because the alternative people in her group like learned some stuff from like the normies, and the normies learned some stuff from the alternative people. So she was saying like, her after church socials and stuff, like the normal people would, bring all kinds of like casseroles and like just, the stuff that you normally do at the church. And like eventually the alternative people kind of picked up on that a little bit, and they would start taking on a little bit more, I want to say responsibility, but I'm not sure that's the proper word. And then the normal people got more accepting of all of the
Alternative
outcast.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, because we
That's
always see
wholesome.
those. Yeah, and it's really cool, and like I think we can take that into like heathenry as well, because like we have, I mean, we're a fringe religion, so like we have a lot of fringe people who are, you know, for lack of a better word, weird. And I'm pretty weird myself. So, but we also have
Oh
a lot of
man.
like, normal people.
Weird and normal, I think, are relative terms. And that's one
Yeah,
of the loveliest things that I tend to embrace about not just
right.
Germanic paganism, but just the pagan community is the acceptance of the alternative.
Yeah,
Right. I don't care about your what you want to be called, how the terms that you wish to be called by, to the extent of I think that you're any less of a person for asking that. I respect it,
right.
and I will adhere to what you're asking. You know what I mean? So the pronouns,
Yeah,
that sort of thing. Like I'm 100% supportive of addressing people by their preferred pronouns, and I feel that the pagan community at large is on board with that, as well. And that's what I feel is because I know a lot of people that are you know in the LGBTQ community, and I respect them, and I think that they are very brave individuals for being able to live their lives in a time that even now and today in the 21st century is met with a lot of the violence and opposition, and you're very brave for being that way. You know what I mean? And I'm glad that the pagan communities are accepting and welcoming of those peoples to provide them with
yeah,
a sort of safe space and sanctuary,
yeah,
because I think that you are who you are, and pronouns be damned, because it's not in a negative way. I mean, like that's a thing where I'm like, I don't
yeah,
care who to call you. I'll call you he, they, she, them, whatever. It doesn't matter to me. But if it matters to you, then it matters to me at that level. You know what I mean?
right.
Um, and I'm glad to see that the pagan community at large, at least in my experience, is welcoming to that and accepting of that.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, to kind of bring it back to heathenry, like one of the things up until quite recently is, like they didn't do a lot of stuff for Loki, and like a lot of groups are um, Loki phobic, I guess you could say. And I mean, there's definitely good reason for it. Don't get me wrong. But like
yeah,
one of the things that um, that we're kind of bringing into heathenry now is, we're a little more accepting of the Lokians. Um,
mm,
and I mean, like, we've got one Lokian in our group at the moment, and I mean, she brings people to a lot of our events who are Lokians and stuff. And I mean, there's definitely compromise that needs to take place with that.
mm,
Like, sometimes things are just a little different. Um, but, in order for our communities to grow, like, you have to have that. Like, we have to have the change. We have to have people who are, you know, different than us, because otherwise we end up in a silo, and it's,
yeah,
everybody's saying the same thing. And I don't want that. Like, and like I
yeah.
was saying before, I try to actively like search out other religions and learn from them, so that we can kind of take some of that and um,
I
make it
think it
ours.
falls. Yeah, I think it falls back to a bit on what you were saying earlier too, Greg, with like regards to this. You've got people that are positioned in your tribe, and this goes back to my tribe's not going to be the same as yours. Yours is not going to be the same as theirs. and
Yep.
hers and his or whatever, and you're all gonna do, you're all gonna heathen the way you want to heathen. It's
Yeah.
and I've talked about this. I've had Eric Shervin on the channel and stuff before, where it's not my hall, not my call. If
Yeah.
you determine that this works for your hall, then you make it so, right? And it's not me or yours or anybody else's position to tell you that you're doing it wrong. If it works, then it works, and you've made it work for what the reasons that you made it. But the tribal structure and that overarching kind of leader that says, okay, well, at some point we draw a line, and that's the line. And if you're not willing to stop there, then this may not be the group for you, and you can find another group, and that's fine. And I feel like that is 100% within the the social construct, even that was seen in ancient tribes that predate Christianity. Like every tribe did their own thing a little bit differently. There may be some underlying and overarching similarities, but there were a lot of nuances and differences that made certain tribes and certain regions of the world known for a certain thing. And that's where we as modern heathens have I think a responsibility to kind of establish that role in modern times, right? Like we're not in the 8th, 9th century, whatever, Scandinavia. We're in, me and you, like we're in Middle Tennessee, and then other people listening and participating, they may be in the Northeast and then Southwest and where the heck ever, not just the United States, but just wherever in the world. Like I wanted to talk about, because I was mentioning in the precursor, the intro to today's episode, some of the things that happened over this past weekend with myself and my tribe. And we were in our sacred space. We were in our Vey, which is located on my Gothi's family's property in Lewisburg, Tennessee. And we had a large staff that was shaped in the fashion of the Algi's rune. And for the longest time, for the biggest part of the last decade, long before I was even a part of our tribe, that staff was the ward to the Vey.
Yeah.
And recently, that relic has become misplaced and is no longer we haven't been able to find it.
Oh no.
So so oh no, but also we look to establishing certain things and finding certain things, right? So this relic, this item hasn't been seen and hasn't been able to be discovered. We were there in our sacred space because we have, you were talking about earlier, the Winter Nights Holy Tide that is coming up very soon in the next few weeks. Matter of fact, within the next month or so. And for our tribe, we tend to adhere to a structured old heathen adherence to some of those sacred times. So like Yule is very traditional for us, and Winter Nights is a very special time for us. So we were there in our Vey and in our sacred space to sort of prepare for an upcoming event that is not anything to do with any sort of heathen calendar, but also to get the wood prepared for Winter Nights and stuff that's coming up. Yep. And because that warding staff was missing, we thought, well, what a great opportunity while we're out here cutting wood and stuff like that, to look for a new staff or a new ward. So here's one of the very interesting things that happened that I wanted to talk about, right? We have the family land, right? They had a chainsaw, and we're like, we're going to go here and we're going to, carve up some logs and stuff and make it real easy for us to right? That chainsaw didn't start. That chainsaw would not start. Not for any amount of effort, not for any amount of work that we could put into it. So guess what had to happen? We had to go back to harvesting the deadfall, and we had to go back to harvesting all the wood and everything with the saw and with the axe. Manpower.
Yep.
So we were all there, traipsing through the land and everything like that. And myself and the tribe's law speaker, me and him, we were out there walking around, and we're looking for a warding staff, just anything that stood out.
Yeah.
And found this piece of cedar. It was a deadfall piece of cedar, this branch that was laying down. And it was a a very obscure branch that was just like laying in a weird sort of way. But I looked and I said, and I told the guy, I said, look, and he saw it. He was looking in the same direction I would, and he says, Fehu. And I said, yep, you see what I'm seeing. And there was a section of that limb that was fallen in a specific way that was shaped in the shape, or it was positioned in the shape of the Fehu rune. So we went with our handsaw, right? Just manpower, just sawing off the deadfall, trimmed it down, and it was like one of those moments where like we didn't go searching for it per se. Like we're not looking for a specific rune, we're not looking for a specific branch or limb or anything like that. You know what I'm saying? But it was obvious that that was going to be the piece for our sacred space, and it was positioned at our vase altar, the holder, right? The outdoor stone construction of our sacred kind of sacrificial altar space, and that's what it was. And it made so much sense for our tribe, because our tribe is Clerithi folk, and Clerithi is it's a name or a kinning for Thor. Right. And so our people, our tribe, our folk, as it were, the Clerithi folk, it's a literal just transliteration of people of the Thunderer, people of the thundering storm, people of Thor. Right. And what better way to kind of build our tribe's space than through hard labor? That chainsaw, kick it out of here, man. That chainsaw ain't gonna do you jack shit, because that's too easy. Yeah. You know, you're going to have to sweat. You're going to have to put calluses on your hands. You're going to have to be sore the next day. You're going to have to put in that hard labor that you know, and it fit for us. Now, is that going to fit for the next tribe? No, not necessarily. But it was like, these are one of the things I like to share. It's like, you have to establish your tribal traditions, your tribal food, your tribal everything. Like, it's going to be very specific to you and yours, and we did it. We did our thing. We found bones, we found feathers, we found fungus, we found mushrooms. We actually ate some turkey tail feather mushrooms that are absolutely disgusting. If you want to try to cook them, they're like, I come to find out that they're better used to like brew down into like a tea. Mm-hmm. But like, if you want to like compare like the consumption of a turkey tail feather mushroom, it's like, you ever like just try to like, and this may go back to like the childhood days of people like you and I, but like, you ever like chew like construction paper?
Back in the day, I've done things like that. Yeah.
But you know the texture that I'm talking about, where it's like you chew it and it doesn't really like break down. It just like gets like more leathery and more like chewy the more you chew it.
Yep.
That's what turkey tail feather mushrooms are like. Like, oh, there's a little bit of a mushroom flavor, but the more you chew it, the more it just like, it's like jerky. It's what jerky wants to be. Like a vegan jerky, what vegan jerky wants to be, because it's so chewy, but like the consistency of it is just very like wet construction paper kind of thing. But you know what? We did it. We found these things and we did this stuff, and we're like, this is what it's about for us, you know? This is what it's about for our tribe. And it meant something in that moment, and for the betterment and for the development of the tribe. And it's like, what are the people out here doing to recreate that in their own way? That's what it's about.
That's the sacrifice. I mean, like, you know, we talk about sacrifice in heathenry and whatnot, and like, if you had used the chainsaw, you probably would have missed a lot of that, like the little stuff, you know, like
we absolutely would have.
Yeah. And because
it would have been too easy.
Yeah. Because you didn't, I mean, you were gifted bones and feathers and stuff like that. And, you know, like that, putting that hard work and labor into that, you know, I mean, it means a little bit more, you know, and you're more invested, I guess you could say. So it's kind of one of the things that we do at Raven Moon Hearth is when we have events, I mean, we try to show up a couple of days early, and we work our tail off to, like, just all the stuff you have to do, mow the lawn and like cut wood and like all of the hard labor, because
Yeah.
that makes it memorable. And also, the more work you put into something, the more you get out of it. So
Yeah, it all goes back to the gifting cycle, the ideal of reciprocation, and I love that about the similarities that we can share talking about these things, because it's when you've put so much work into something, when you've built something from your hands, okay, whether you're going to sacrifice it or whether you're going to offer it or whatever it is, you've given it everything that you've got. You've put everything, you put your heart, your soul, your little physical labor into it, you know what I mean?
right.
And there's more value to it at that point, I feel, because you've done the thing. And we talked about this earlier, that worth is placed on those that do, the
Yeah,
doers, right? Hail the doers, right?
exactly.
You did it. You didn't talk about it, you didn't suggest it in a group chat or post about it online. You went and you did the thing. And you have those physical items to be a representation of that, and then
Yeah,
the results of it at the end are so much more, like, you get so much more out of it, I feel.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, guys, Raven Moon Hearth has Shadowmoot coming up. Greg, we're gonna probably just wrap up here in a few. I'll keep you on to chat a bit after the podcast, but you know, for anybody that's interested, I'm going to annotate stuff in the description and in the show notes of the podcast. So far as I know right now, the only way that people can know about where and like the details, the actual logistics of Shadowmoot is going to be on the Facebook event. Is there anything else going on that I'm not aware of?
That's it. We're working on building a website, but it just hasn't materialized yet. So
Okay. So the actual physical location is, again, Springfield, Tennessee. Will, if it's okay with the Hearth, I mean, it's a public event, right? So if people that are listening or watching aren't on Facebook, it's going to be at a physical location. Can we put that down in the details for people to know about?
um,
Because it's
well,
it's 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 a public event on
yeah.
on social media, and if they can't reach Facebook for whatever, I don't have Facebook. Where do I show up to be a part of this if I want to? It's a
Uh,
physical location. Am I
yep. It's actually at one of our members' homes, and
okay?
it's out there in Facebook. So I don't see why it couldn't be, put on here as well. But it's 3718 Dobbin Road in Springfield, Tennessee. So
Okay. And again, for those that are listening and watching, if you are interested in participating and joining, again, it is at it has a person's residence. So be respectful, folks. It's a public event. The Hearth is generous enough to extend this out to the public. As always, be respectful of your hosts. You
yeah,
know, pick up your crap. Take care of your stuff. All that kind of thing.
yeah.
So
And it's real quick, it's $35 for a weekend pass, and that includes um, all of your meals. Well, it's dinner Friday, all your meals Saturday, and breakfast on Sunday, and camping. And it includes, all of the events and rituals and classes and whatnot. Um, and we also do day passes, which are $20 if you can only make it for one day. Definitely do Saturday, because that's when most of the cool stuff happens.
okay.
Um, and like the day passes also include lunch and dinner. So it's pretty reasonably priced, I think. Like, we try
Yeah.
not to
So
make it too expensive.
if it was a big, if you wanted to like make an event of it, it's a 3 day long event.
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes.
So okay, so yeah, so if you wanted to, go in for the long haul, if you wanted to, get everything out of it that you possibly could, $35 for the weekend,
Yeah.
you can't. argue that kind of value, man. But yeah, $20 a day for the day pass. It is on personal property, so be respectful. All of the details are going to be in the description down below or in the show notes of this podcast.
And children under 12 are free, and we've got some cool vendors showing up too. So if you
vendors like real quick before we wrap it up, like what are some things that people could potentially be excited about seeing
we've got
as far as vendors?
Young woman who is coming out, and she's going to be doing face painting, which is pretty cool. Like I've seen some of her work, and she looks like she can do some amazing stuff. We also have a woman who's doing thread divination, which is something that she has developed herself, where you put paint on a long thread and then you put it on this board, and there's some other stuff that goes along with it. But then when you pull it out, like you get this board that has this really cool painting, I guess is the right word on it. And then she'll decipher it for you. And that's really interesting. I've actually had one of those done by her. And we also have, let me see, we've got a leather worker coming out who does some fantastic stuff. And she's got bags that are just amazing. She's got, what are those called? Those, the mask that they used during the Middle Ages, during the bubonic plague, with the plague doctors.
Like the plague doctor type things. Nice.
So yeah, and I mean, she's just got all kinds of neat stuff, like keychains and like, just all kinds of cool stuff. I mean, she's amazing. So and then there's a couple other people, which I can't remember off the top of my head.
And it sounds like it's going to be a freaking amazing time for all things pagan, all things heathen. If you guys are in the area listening, watching, or whatever, you got plenty of time to check out the details. And it's a public event, so, and it sounds like it's an all ages thing, but the kids have their space and have their involvement. So consider bringing the family, right?
Yeah, we try to have lots of kids stuff. I bought a ton of Nerf guns a couple years back, and we let the kids have Nerf wars, and
nice.
One of our members is actually making a hammer for the kids to throw, because part of our games is we have a hammer throw and a spear toss, archery, and stuff like that. And we like to include the kids in that because they like to do that stuff too. So
very cool.
It's a lot of fun. So
it sounds amazing. So yeah, everybody check out, description, show notes, et cetera. All the details are going to be there. And if you're in the, I was going to say just within the, the 500-mile radius of Nashville, Tennessee, like I said, I've been a part of some of the Raven Moon Hearth events that are public, and was honored enough to be invited to a sort of an invite only event. Real fun time, real good time. I think you're going to really enjoy yourself if you come and check it out. So be sure to check out all the details in the description or whatever. And hail to my honored guest, Mr. Greg Strong. It was great to have you on here again. Great to talk about these things. I think it was really, really awesome and insightful. So, anybody that's looking at Raven Moon Hearth on Facebook, their details are going to be again annotated down below or in the show notes, however it is that you're watching. So check out Raven Moon Hearth on Facebook. I think is your main platform, right, Greg? You guys don't really dabble into many of the other big social media sites, but check them out on Facebook. Check out Shadowmoot. Greg, stick around so I can chat with you a little bit offline. But yeah, for everybody that's been a part of this, thank you so much. Please continue to support the podcast in any way that you can. I talked about this at the intro, but as a reminder, you can always call in to the Midgard Musings hotline at 615-671-9832. Don't forget to check out the Linktree link that's in the show notes as well. Get you some Midgard Musings merchandise, become a patron on Patreon, subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, the whole 9,000 yards or whatever it is these days. So yeah, you all are wonderful. Thank you so much for your support today. Thank you, Greg, for being here. Hail to you all, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for having me. Have a great day.